Charlie Chaplin was a leader in the film industry because he was able to set higher standards for acting and directing by perfecting the detail that went into it, unlike others of his time. Chaplin gave meaning to his films and did so in a way that was comedic but insightful. By giving substance to comedy, he was able to make an industry into an art form. His films gave insight to the audience of the events happening around them, such as the effects of industrialization with his film Modern Times. His films also guided the world through incredible hardships, such as the Great Depression in the United States and the rise of Nazism during World War II. Through his films, he gave entertainment, pleasure, and relief to people all over the world when it was needed most. Charles Spencer Chaplin was born April 16, 1889, in London, England. His father was a vocalist and actor who left when Charlie was young, and his mother Hannah was a young comedian and singer who gained popularity for her work in opera. Chaplin loved his mother very much and was strongly attached to her after his father left. Hannah had success in the British Music Hall, but was plagued by her ill mental health. Hannah's mental health continued to decline, and eventually she was placed in a mental hospital. Despite his mother's illness, Chaplin always claimed that his mother was his greatest inspiration on his performance techniques. Chaplin recounted that even on the worst of days, his mother would cheer him up by singing and dancing to him, which she had performed at the British Music Hall. Chaplin began his acting career at the age of 10 when he was asked to join a juvenile group called the Lancashire Lads, where he became an excellent tap dancer. This is where he started his career as a comedian in vaudeville, which eventually took his career to the United States in 1910 with the Fred Karno Repertoire Company. Max Sennett, who ran the Keystone Film Company, saw Chaplin during one of his tours and saw the potential he had in the film industry. Chaplin was offered a motion picture contract with the Keystone Film Company, and he signed the contract in September of 1913 for a period of 1 year beginning in December. Chaplin's time at Keystone was a very influential time in his life. During this time, he was still trying to discover his character and learn more about comedic filmmaking. Chaplin's first film was called Making a Living, where Chaplin began like any other Keystone comedian. Chaplin wanted a character-driven film, but Henry Lehrman, the director of the film, wanted to break up the film into gag scenes that gave no complete flow or order. After the film, Chaplin decided to develop his own character and went to the wardrobe department and threw together a variety of clothes, including a small coat, baggy pants, and big shoes. He pasted on a black mustache above his lip, found a cane prop, and a derby hat to finish it off. The Tramp was born. The Tramp first appeared in Chaplin's second film called Mabel's Strange Predicament. The film was a success, and the audiences favored the Tramp because he was so human and familiar to the audience. During this time, Chaplin became highly interested in learning the business of making films. He believed that if given the chance, he could create better films than the directors at Keystone. After demand increased for more Chaplin films, Chaplin asked Mark Sennett if he could direct, and he agreed. One of Chaplin's films, Dough and Dynamite, became one of the most successful films from Keystone. When doing the film, Chaplin wanted to take his time and create a well-constructed film. The film grossed more than $135,000 its first year alone. It was a major success for Keystone and Chaplin. When Chaplin's contract was over, the S&A Film Manufacturing Company sent Chaplin an offer of $1,250 a week. Chaplin joined in December of 1914 and was able to put more effort and time into his films. Instead of pumping out a film each week, Chaplin was now able to spend more time on his films, sending only one film out every month. Chaplin was able to give substance to comedic film by using comedic transposition, gag humor, and irony in his films. He also used pathos in a few of his films, which was an innovation in comedic filmmaking. Maturity started to develop in his films. Chaplin also started to develop his character more by making the Tramp seem more gentle and romantic. At SNA, Chaplin became a cultural phenomenon. Shops became stocked with Chaplin merchandise, including dolls, cartoon strips, and even songs were wrote about him. As a journalist for Motion Picture Magazine put it, Chaplinitis had spread across America. In just 2 years after appearing in his first film, he had become the most famous entertainer in the world. After his contract ended in December of 1915, he joined the Mutual Film Corporation. Chaplin's films at Mutual are considered by scholars to be among his finest works because of the careful construction that went into them. At Mutual, we see Chaplin creating a new level in acting and directing that none had seen before. Chaplin acted out the parts of all the actors as he wished them to be played to every detail. He would rehearse the scenes numerous times to achieve perfection in each scene and had an unyielding obsession on performance in his films, which he carried for the rest of his career. When his Mutual contract expired in 1917, Chaplin decided to become an independent producer and created his own studios. In April of 1919, Chaplin joined with Mary Pickford, Douglas Fairbanks, and D.W. Griffith to create the United Artists Corporation, in which under the system the stars became their own employers instead of the producers and distributors. This introduced a new method to the film industry. Some of Chaplin's most famous films as an independent producer was The Kid, Modern Times, and The Great Dictator. Modern Times marked the end of The Little Tramp, which had brought Chaplin world fame. The film showed the predicaments that America's Great Depression gave, such as mass unemployment with the rise of industrial automation. The film also showed issues that workers were facing, such as long hours and unsafe work conditions. The Tramp plays as a factory worker being driven crazy by his monotonous work and symbolized what thousands of people in the 1930s were dealing with. The film ends with the Tramp bravely walking off down a lane towards the horizon. This ending gives a gratifying farewell to the beloved Tramp and sends a strand of hope that life will go on for the thousands of viewers dealing with the hardships of the world. Chaplin gave substance to comedic films and was able to put them in the same standards as other films. After Chaplin, comedies were not just random gags. They now were more restrained and intelligent. The world that the Tramp had came into was a time of suffering between 2 world wars, economic depression, mass unemployment, and poverty. His beloved character warmed the hearts of thousands all across the world and had a worldwide impact on audiences by giving laughter and joy when they needed it most. Chaplin, as a filmmaker, was considered as the most influential figure of the 20th century. Chaplin was the first to popularize feature-length comedy and add pathos to comedy. Chaplin's attention to detail and obsession of perfection in his films set new standards of acting and directing for future generations to come. His work influenced other comedians and inspired cartoon characters like Mickey Mouse. Chaplin's idea that directors could produce their own films was years ahead of its time. Charlie Chaplin was a leader in cinema and left a legacy that will ever be engraved in the art we call film.
Millions of despairing men, women, and children, victims of a system that makes men torture and imprison innocent people. To those who can hear me, I say, do not despair. The misery that is now upon us is but the passing of greed, the bitterness of men who fear the way of human progress. The hate of men will pass and dictators die, and the power they took from the people will return to the people.